7 hygiene mistakes the elderly make that doctors notice instantly, and what they really mean. There's a quiet truth that drifts through the hallways of hospitals, care homes, and even our own living rooms, but no one wants to talk about it. It's not loud, it doesn't scream, it doesn't draw attention like a broken hip or a wrinkled scan, but when doctors walk into the room, they notice it almost instantly. A certain smell, a look in the eyes, a stiffness in the shoulders. It's personal hygiene, or more accurately, the slow unraveling of it. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about being messy or lazy. This isn't judgment. In fact, it's the opposite. It's about noticing the signs of someone slipping, not because they've stopped caring, but because something deeper is happening. Something physical, emotional, even spiritual. Hygiene, especially as we age, becomes more than a matter of soap and water. It becomes a mirror that reflects how we feel about ourselves, how connected we are to our routines, and how supported or unsupported we are. I've seen strong, capable people who raised families, led careers, survived wars and heartbreaks, suddenly begin to neglect the very rituals that once brought them pride. A missed shower here, a forgotten toothbrush there. At first it feels small, but ask any doctor and they'll tell you, those small slips are big red flags. They point to pain, illness, depression, cognitive decline, or sometimes just sheer loneliness. You see, doctors are trained to notice things most of us overlook. They don't just treat symptoms, they observe. A dull look in the eyes, an unwashed sweater worn for the 3rd day in a row, dry skin, overgrown nails. These details speak louder than lab results, and if they're paying attention, these small clues can be the first step in giving someone their dignity back. But this isn't just for doctors. This conversation is for you. Whether you're aging yourself or you love someone who is, it's time we bring this into the light. Personal hygiene isn't just about staying clean. It's about staying you. It's about reclaiming confidence, identity, and joy in the everyday. Because when we talk about aging with wisdom, we can't leave out the small rituals that keep us feeling human. So let's talk. Let's go into those often ignored details. The 7 hygiene mistakes that elderly folks make without realizing it. The ones doctors pick up on right away. Not to shame, not to lecture, but to understand. And to remind every person listening, you deserve to feel whole, seen, and respected at every age, in every season of your life. Number 1, neglecting oral health. When a smile tells a hidden story, you'd be surprised how many secrets a smile can hold. Doctors know this. Dentists definitely know this. But most of us, we tend to overlook the power of the mouth until it stops working the way it used to. You see, oral health isn't just about brushing your teeth twice a day or using minty mouthwash. It's deeper. For elderly individuals, neglecting oral hygiene often isn't intentional. Sometimes the hands aren't as steady. The toothbrush feels heavier than it used to. Maybe the gums bleed or the dentures pinch, and slowly brushing becomes something they avoid without realizing it. But here's what doctors notice right away. Swollen gums, dry mouth, cracked lips, the faint but distinct smell of infection. To them, it's not just bad breath. It's a signal. It can point to diabetes, dehydration, poor nutrition, or even the early stages of cognitive decline. There's also a silent sadness behind a smile that disappears. People stop wanting to talk as much. They stop laughing freely. They skip meals not because they're not hungry, but because chewing hurts. Bit by bit they retreat, and it all starts in the mouth. And here's the powerful truth. Regaining oral hygiene can change everything. I once heard a story about a man in his 70s who stopped going out with his friends. He stopped smiling in family photos. His kids thought it was grief or depression, but during a routine visit, his doctor noticed gum inflammation, and referred him to a dentist. Turned out, he'd been silently struggling with dental pain for months. 2 cleanings and a set of new dentures later, he was back at the weekly card game, cracking jokes like nothing had happened. That's the thing about oral health. It's tied to confidence, to communication, to connection, and it's absolutely worth fighting for. Number 2, skipping regular showers or baths. The hidden mental health symptom. And let's talk about something that makes a lot of people uncomfortable: bathing. Not in the relaxing, candlelit spa day kind of way, but the everyday routine of staying clean. Because for many elderly people, skipping showers isn't just forgetfulness or stubbornness. It's often a silent cry for help. Doctors can usually tell within the first few minutes of meeting someone a certain dryness in the skin, the slight buildup of oils on the neck or behind the ears, clothes that cling a bit too much to the body. And here's the thing, they don't judge it, but they do recognize it for what it is: a potential sign of physical pain, cognitive challenges, or depression. Bathing becomes difficult for all sorts of reasons. Maybe the water's too hot or too cold. Maybe they're afraid of falling. Maybe standing too long in the shower causes pain in their knees or back. Or maybe, and this one hits deep, maybe they just don't see the point anymore. This is often where mental health quietly enters the picture. When someone stops showering, it might be because they feel like they're not worth the effort, that no one's coming over, that no one's going to notice anyway, and that kind of thinking, that's dangerous. I once heard a story about a woman named Maria. She used to love rose-scented soap and warm baths. But after her husband passed and her kids moved away, she started skipping them. One day, then 2, then an entire week. When her daughter visited, she barely recognized her mother, disheveled, withdrawn, disconnected. A doctor's visit revealed not only neglected hygiene, but also untreated depression. The turning point? Her daughter started visiting once a week just to help with bath time. They turned it into something gentle and kind: lit candles, soft music, warm towels. It wasn't about getting clean. It was about healing, and that's the heart of it. Bathing isn't just about removing dirt. It's about reminding someone that they matter, that their body is still deserving of care, touch, and comfort. So when hygiene starts slipping, don't just reach for a bar of soap. Reach out with empathy. Because often, what someone really needs isn't a bath. They need a reason to want one again. Number 3, wearing the same clothes for days, comfort or cry for help. At first glance, it might seem harmless. Someone wearing the same cozy sweater 3 days in a row, or maybe a pair of pants that haven't seen the laundry in a while. They're just comfortable, we tell ourselves. It's their favorite outfit. But doctors, they see something else: the par, repeated clothing, especially when it's soiled, stained, or beginning to carry an odor, is more than a fashion choice. It's a potential warning sign. It often hints at something bigger: a struggle with mobility, a lack of energy, or the beginning of cognitive changes. It might even mean that doing laundry feels overwhelming, or that changing clothes requires more bending, reaching, or balance than someone can comfortably manage. And here's the part that really matters: what this does to the spirit. Wearing the same clothes again and again doesn't just change how others perceive someone. It changes how they perceive themselves. Over time, it chips away at self-worth. It replaces routine with resignation. One day, they stop caring what they look like. The next, they stop caring how they feel. There's a man I'll never forget, James. Widower, retired carpenter. Always wore plaid. But one year, his daughter noticed it was always the same plaid shirt. At first, she laughed it off. Then she realized he wasn't doing laundry. He wasn't changing at all. Turns out his hands hurt too much to manage buttons. and his arthritis made it nearly impossible to lift wet clothes into the dryer. He wasn't lazy. He was... What changed? A few simple switches, looser clothes, easy zippers, weekly laundry help, but most of all, encouragement. His daughter helped him lay out clothes each Sunday for the week ahead. It gave him structure, something to look forward to. Within weeks, he started smiling more, walking taller, even combing his hair again. Because clothing isn't just about covering the body. It's about identity. And when we support our elders in dressing well, whatever that looks like for them, we're telling them, you still matter. You're still you. Number 4, overlooking nail care. The tiniest signs that speak volumes. It's something so small, so easy to miss. Fingernails, toenails, but to a doctor's trained eye, they can reveal an entire health story. Overgrown nails, yellowing, cracks, fungal buildup. These aren't just cosmetic issues. They can indicate diabetes, poor circulation, malnutrition, or compromised immune function. In fact, some doctors say nails are one of the first things they check when they suspect something's off. Why? Because nails often reflect what's happening inside the body before symptoms show up anywhere else. But even beyond the medical red flags, neglected nails carry a kind of quiet sadness. Hands and feet are extensions of how we interact with the world. They help us hold, walk, write, hug. And when nail care is ignored, it's often because someone no longer feels connected to those daily actions. Sometimes it's physical. Bending over to trim toenails becomes a balancing act. Or maybe their vision isn't sharp enough to see what they're doing. Other times, it's emotional. They might feel embarrassed asking for help, or they've simply stopped noticing. A powerful story comes from a grandson, just 18 years old, who visited his grandmother in assisted living. He brought nail polish. She laughed at first, and sure, but when he began gently cleaning, trimming, and painting her nails, she teared up. Not because of the manicure, but because someone had noticed. Someone had cared enough to tend to the parts of her she thought were forgotten. Nail care is an act of love. Whether it's for yourself or someone else, it's a moment to say, I see you. You're not invisible. You're not alone. So yes, those tiny tips of our fingers and toes, they're not so tiny after all. They carry our stories, and they deserve attention, just like every part of us. Number 5, ignoring foot hygiene, the foundation we walk on. There's something deeply symbolic about the feet. They carry us through life, through the fields we worked, the weddings we danced at, the hospital corridors we paced late at night. They've earned every callus, every ache, and yet when age creeps in, they often become one of the most neglected parts of the body. Doctors are quick to check the feet, especially in older adults. They're looking for signs, cracked heels, overgrown toenails, fungal infections, swelling, dryness. These details aren't minor. They're clues to circulation issues, diabetes complications, or nerve damage. A tiny wound left untreated on the foot of a diabetic person can turn into something life-altering or even life-threatening. But foot hygiene isn't just about medical emergencies. It's also about comfort, balance, dignity. Think about how unsettling it is to walk around with socks clinging to sweaty skin, or shoes that don't quite fit right. Now imagine that being your daily norm. Many elders don't ignore foot care because they don't care. It's because it's physically hard to reach, or because they feel ashamed asking for help, or in some cases, because the pain has become so normal they've stopped recognizing it as a problem at all. I once heard a story of a grandfather, stubborn, proud, never wanted help. He shuffled when he ached, and everyone thought it was just how he moved. Until one day, during a routine exam, a nurse removed his socks and found thick, curling toenails and a fungal infection he never mentioned. Why? Because he didn't want to bother anyone. because he didn't think it was worth mentioning, but it was. After treatment, trimming and a proper fitting pair of shoes, his gait changed. So did his posture. So did his energy. It was as if he had been dragging around an invisible weight and finally let it go. Foot care isn't glamorous, but it's powerful. Clean, cared-for feet restore a sense of grounding, of control, of pride. And in a stage of life where independence often feels like it's slipping away, even the smallest act of care can root someone back into themselves. Number 6, inadequate incontinence management. A silent dignity battle. There's no topic more quietly devastating than this one. Incontinence. Just saying the word out loud can make people wince. And yet, it's more common than most want to admit, especially as we age. What's heartbreaking is not the condition itself, but how deeply it affects someone's confidence, self-esteem, and willingness to engage with the world. Doctors recognize it instantly. That slightly sour smell in the room, the redness or irritation on the skin, the sudden withdrawal of someone who used to be outgoing. These aren't just symptoms, they're signals of fear, of shame, of someone trying desperately to keep their dignity while feeling like their body is betraying them. And often no one talks about it. Elders might not bring it up because they're embarrassed. Family might avoid the topic out of discomfort. But behind closed doors, the reality is painful. Skin rashes, infections, waking up multiple times at night, avoiding trips or social gatherings, all because of something that could be managed with the right care, the right tools, and most of all, the right mindset. I remember a woman named Evelyn, always polished, always elegant, but one day, she stopped coming to Sunday service. She stopped inviting people over. Everyone assumed she was just getting tired. But the truth? She was terrified of an accident. She was ashamed. It wasn't until her doctor gently brought it up without judgment that things began to change. With the right incontinence products, a skincare routine, and support from her daughter, Evelyn started living again. She came back to church. She even went on a weekend trip with friends. Not because the problem disappeared, but because she finally believed she didn't have to hide from it. That's what this is really about. Not fixing or curing every issue, but giving people the tools, support, and emotional permission to live fully in the bodies they have. Because dignity doesn't mean pretending nothing's wrong. It means meeting life's changes with grace, with courage, and with the deep belief that you are worthy of care, no matter what. Number 7, forgetting to change bed linens regularly. What doctors smell first. There's something sacred about a bed. It's where we rest, where we heal, where we dream. For older adults, it's often the one place they spend the most time. And yet, the space, this small sanctuary, can sometimes become a silent trap. Doctors and caregivers will tell you, the moment they step into a home or a room, they can tell when the bed hasn't been changed in a while. It's not just about wrinkles in the sheets or a few crumbs here and there. It's a smell, a heaviness in the air, an invisible sign that something is being neglected. And again, it's rarely about laziness or neglect. Changing bed linens can be exhausting. Lifting a mattress corner with arthritic hands, balancing while walking around the bed. It's a workout. For someone dealing with chronic pain, fatigue, or memory issues, it's often too much. So the sheets stay a day, then a week, then more. But here's what many people don't realize. Dirty linens can impact more than just comfort. They can harbor bacteria, trigger skin irritations, worsen allergies, and even lead to infections, especially for those who may already be struggling with incontinence or weakened immune systems. More than that, though, unclean bedding affects the soul. There's a psychological weight to lying down each night in a bed that doesn't feel fresh. It sends a message, subtle but powerful, that you don't matter enough to deserve cleanliness, that your comfort isn't worth the effort. I once heard about a woman, Agnes, who used to change her sheets every Sunday morning, like clockwork. Crisp, white cotton, always with a hint of lavender. But after her husband passed, and her arthritis got worse, she stopped. When her son visited, he noticed the smell in the room, not unpleasant, but stale, lived in a way that felt too heavy. So he brought fresh linens the next week, sat with her, changed the bed together. She cried, not because the sheets were new, but because the ritual was back. The love, the care. That's what fresh bedding does. It doesn't just clean a bed. It lifts a person. It says you are worthy of comfort. You deserve rest, peace, and softness in the place where you lay your head. Conclusion: wisdom is dignity in action. Let's go back to the beginning. Remember that story. The one about the quiet signs, the ones doctors see first, long before a diagnosis is made. That subtle smell, the weariness in someone's eyes, the shirt worn one too many days. These aren't just hygiene issues, they're clues. Clues that tell a story of change, of need, of someone slowly slipping away from the rhythms that once made them feel alive. But here's the part that matters most. Every one of these signs is also a doorway, a chance, a moment to step in with kindness, with support, with the kind of love that restores more than just cleanliness. It restores dignity, because wisdom, real wisdom, isn't just about knowing facts or living a long life. It's about acting with grace, about choosing care when it's hard, about remembering that every person, no matter their age or stage, deserves to feel seen, deserves to feel clean, deserves to feel whole. So if you're someone growing older, know this. Your worth has nothing to do with what you can or cannot do on your own. Asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the wisdom to say, I matter enough to be taken care of. And if you're someone who loves someone older, watch closely, listen gently, support quietly. Because sometimes a fresh shirt, a warm bath, or trimmed nails can mean more than any grand gesture. Sometimes hygiene is the purest form of love. This isn't just about staying clean, it's about staying you, dignified, empowered, respected. This is your life, and every part of it, right down to your fingernails and fresh sheets, deserves to be treated with honor. You're not just getting older, you're becoming something even more extraordinary. So take care, and let yourself be taken care of too.